Dr. Edgar Housepian was legendary for his compassionate and pioneering medical and humanitarian work. A man who embodied to the greatest extent the Hippocratic Oath, he exemplified the best in humanity, and did so in his typical, quiet, gentle, and humble manner. Dr. Housepian passed away on November 14, 2014, at the age of 86. More than 200 friends, colleagues, and admirers came to St. Vartan Cathedral to pay their respect to Dr. Edgar Housepian's memory. In his inspiring eulogy, Primate of the Armenian Diocese Archbishop Khajak Barsamian related the enormous contribution of Dr. Housepian to the Armenian Church, the Republic of Armenia, and the American community.
Dr. Housepian was the incredible broad scope of his humanitarian concern. His compassion and concern were directed not only to friends or to fellow countrymen, but also to the people he had never met, people from all walks of life in every circumstances. Whether the cause was a great disaster or the quiet affliction of an individual, Dr. Housepian's heart compelled him to act, to help, to use his powers for relief and healing. We share our hearts today and extend our sympathies for their most personal loss. For the rest of us, we pray for the soul of Dr. Edgar Housepian, humanitarian and healer, man of compassion and conviction, an unforgettable friend.
Following the church memorial service, the large crowd gathered in Kocharyan Hall of the Armenian Diocese for a memorial meal, hokechash, and tribute reception under the auspices of FAR. The Master of Ceremonies, Dr. David Najarian, in his welcoming message paid tribute to Dr. Housepian.
Let me welcome you all to this memorable tribute to honor the legacy and selfless devotion of Dr. Housepian to the patients he encountered during his stellar career and to the Armenian community of the metropolitan New York area as he served them well. I could stand here for a long time extolling the virtues of my friend, my confidant, and my cherished advisor. I will, however, refrain from doing so to afford equally close friends and associates of Dr. Housepian the privilege of sharing their thoughts with us. Our first speaker needs no introduction. Dr. Aram Chobanyan and Edgar Housepian constituted a mutual admiration society of two, both professionally and intellectually. They were kindred spirits.
Cardiologist Dr. Aram Chobanyan, the former president of Boston University, remembered his close friend. He spoke about Dr. Housepian's extraordinary personal qualities, including humility, modesty, respect, thoughtfulness, integrity, and his dry sense of humor.
Ed was involved in many projects in Armenia, and he had more projects than he could get far to approve. There was always a new one that he was thinking about. He was a scholar, an avid reader, and he was very interested in the library, the National Library. And although there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm for the library at the time he brought it up, he pushed it. Finally, the project got approved. At the Cipriani event in his honor, the money that was raised went partly to that project. And now we're seeing the development of a new library, and there's a part of it, a wing, that will be named in his honor. Not many individuals knew about the types of work he did. In addition to being a great clinical neurosurgeon, he went back in his early career to a lot of excellent research. And he was one of the earliest individuals who worked on new approaches to treating Parkinson's disease with surgical techniques. It was one of the, his mentor then was sort of the founder of that whole type of field. He also did the early work on localization of brain areas from the clinical standpoint. And that really helped become the foundation for what we now see as robotic surgery, robotic neurosurgery. Because of his work, he was funded by a number of different agencies, the National Cancer Institute, the American Cancer Society, the Parkinson's Foundation. He wrote a lot of scientific papers, over 100 of them in respected journals. He got many honors, and the most impressive one, I guess, is the fact that Columbia University established an endowed professorship in his name. And that's truly an academic honor for any individual.
Professor Annette Chulfayan, a medical manager of several American institutions, spoke about her friendship and collaboration with Dr. Housepian, with whom she worked for over 20 years on numerous humanitarian projects in Armenia.
We did major things in Armenia, and every time we went, if he got off the plane, the minute he got off the plane, he was surrounded. If you went to Armenia with Dr. Housepian, you were met by the world. I mean, you felt like you were a queen, you had these pictures. But it wasn't for us, it was for him. He was a man who always, never was afraid to confront the truth. And he would have us confront it. At a FAR board meeting, we'd be talking about all sorts of things, but we'd be talking, and then suddenly he'd raise his hand. And the moment he'd raise his hand, everybody stopped, and he was recognized. And he would have that little grimace that he'd make before he's going to say something that was kind of tough. And he'd get that grimace, and I knew, uh-oh, we're going to get it. And he would, you know, wax eloquently about what was wrong with what we were doing, and he was right. And we often changed because of that little grimace and a few sentences. We all know he was a man, most of the time, of few words.
In a light-hearted manner, Dr. Housepian's children, Stephen, Jane, and David, remembered their father.
Last lecture he gave me, he loved to lecture everybody. He'd be lecturing me in this 2013 in Christmas that you've all talked about his honesty. And what it seems to me is the word is integrity. And even at my age, I notice, I have friends who don't have integrity. I know people who just don't have it. And it's really the most powerful thing. It's the hardest thing to come by. You can't really teach integrity. And to be truthful and honest, not to tell 8 people 8 different things, to tell everyone the exact same thing, and to never get caught in a lie, to back up your words with action, to back up your action with words, to do what you say you're going to do, to don't give in and waste your time with other people's nonsense, drama, games. So many people don't know how to do that, and I really love Dad for his integrity.
Everybody respected him. When I was young, I would love to make rounds with him. At first, I had to wait at the nurse's station. They would all tell me what a special doctor my dad was and how he went out of his way for his patients. He was unusually hands-on. This may have come from his father, a highly respected general practitioner, or from helping take care of his 97-year-old grandmother when he was in college. Later, when I was old enough to follow him into patients' rooms, I heard similar comments from the patients themselves. And I saw firsthand how even the briefest visit made patients feel specially cared for and how grateful they were. And we all know that he quietly helped thousands of people. Through his example, my father taught me several big issues, several big lessons. Look people directly in the eye. Treat all people with respect, no matter what their circumstances are, and always do the right thing, not the easy thing. He was a model of integrity and service to others.
When I was a teenager, he gave me a framed copy of Rudyard Kipling's poem, If, which is, I really think, characterized Dad's approach to life to a T. Of course, it took me many years to really kind of get the message. It's short, but I'd really like to read it to you now. It goes, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your long turn after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose your common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
A video depicting many charming facets of Dr. Housepian's life was presented to the attending friends and families.
When I was young, growing up, I was, I guess, like all rascals, feisty, and I wasn't bad, but I had lots of pepper. And I wanted to fly. And the Second World War had started. I think I was 13 when it started. And I just wanted to fly, and I just wanted to get out of high school. I didn't like it anymore, so I skipped a year of high school and graduated and joined the Navy Air Corps. And that was a wonderful thing, fortunately for the world. The war ended 5 months later, so I was only in about 2 years. But for all that, it paid for my entire education, college and medical school, which was a great help. And I've had it easy all my life. After getting all my education paid for, then I went for house staff training to Cleveland. Fortunately, a very good residency at Case Western Reserve. And that's where I met my wife. My father had a more interesting story. When he was a college student in Turkey, he was born in Sesa. He and 5 of his classmates went to fight went to join the fighting resistance in Zaytun. And all of his buddies were captured and killed, and he escaped. And when he tried to go home, they were still looking for him. For almost a year, he hid in the hills and the villages with the Kurds. They took him in. Finally, he knew he couldn't go home, so this is a very interesting story. He stowed away on a freighter and went to Alexandria, Egypt. And in Alexandria, he worked in burlesque as a song and dance man until he earned enough to get passage to England. In England, he put himself through pharmacy school and decided he didn't want to be in England and really didn't want to be a pharmacist. So he came to America in 1900. He had 2 letters of recommendation and a little bit of money. And he got into one of the 2 medical schools at the time, Long Island College of Medicine. He then started a practice in New York City, and over the many years he was in practice, I think he delivered most of the Armenians in New York City, or was their doctor. But in 1916, he went to, with the American Red Cross, he went to Russia, and then left and went to Etchmiadzin. He was in Armenia for almost a year, taking care of the refugees from Turkey. And then he came back and started his practice. He was always very involved in Armenian affairs. He was a Ramgavar. And my mother was always involved. she made an oriental rug. And the family had said, when you finish your rug, you can go away to school. So she finished they thought it would take years. She finished it in about 8 months. And they said, now you have to make one for each of your brothers, and she rebelled. So she left, went to college there, and then got a job with an American woman who was running an orphanage. And in 1920, this woman, Mrs. Van Atten, wanted to come back to America so she could cast her vote. It was the first time women could vote. And she brought her with, my mother with her. She was her secretary. And they were supposed to go to Seattle, but my mother got sick in New York. And they called the doctor, and he came. He said, she's much too sick to travel to Seattle. She'll have to stay here, and when she's all better, we'll put her on the train and she can join you. But instead he married her.
As an esteemed neurosurgeon at Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center, Dr. Edgar Housepian, the son of Dr. Moses and Makruhi Housepian, has spent his entire career dedicated to healing and improving the lives of others. For decades, this remarkable man performed life-saving surgeries and conducted research in his field. The author of more than 100 books and articles on neurosurgery and neurological biology, Dr. Housepian has taught other physicians how to change the world through medicine. Dr. Edgar Housepian has received many awards of the highest distinction, including the Ellis Island Medal of Honor in 1994 and the 2002 Humanitarian Award of the American Association of Neurological Surgeons. In 1996, he received Columbia's Physicians and Surgeons Alumni Medal. He received an honorary doctorate from the Academy of Sciences of Armenia, and in 1992 he was named Man of the Year by the Eastern Diocese of the Armenian Church of America. In 1997, when Dr. Housepian stopped practicing medicine, the Dean of Columbia appointed him as Professor Emeritus of Clinical Neurological Surgery and Special Advisor for International Affiliations. In his name, Columbia established a professorship of neurological surgery, which is bestowed, following the example of Dr. Housepian, on proven innovators in his field.
It was a fateful December day in 1988 when the earth shook Armenia to its core. The quake shattered the cities of Gyumri and Spitak, left 25,000 dead, and hundreds of thousands injured, orphaned, and homeless. While having only visited Armenia once, Dr. Edgar Housepian did not hesitate to try and help with this unprecedented disaster.
I went with the Archbishop, with Gavorkov Nanian, and we were there 5-6 days after this terrible event. And what we saw was, of course, horrible and just heartrending. But I didn't see enough in terms of what we could do for assistance.
When they returned to the United States, Dr. Edgar Housepian and Kevor Kovnanyan continued to organize the shipment of relief supplies to Armenia through the diocese. Soon after, a medical team went to Armenia to conduct further assessment of what could be done. The team indicated that improving medical education was key to improving Armenian healthcare and medicine, and ultimately the country itself.
My dreams, I guess, become realities because I'm so fortunate to be where I am and have access to everybody. And if I have a dream, I can try and work on it.
Dr. Edgar Housepian's work, legacy in life, will continue to live on in the memory of the coming generations as a superb role model, an incredible man, and a true Armenian.